I'm a mechanical shutter, and I'm an endangered species. Please, save me. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thomas Love here from beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, and today I'd like to talk about this mechanical shutter or the absence of it, like in the last releases from Nikon Z9 and Z8. Now, we discussed already the difference between the use of a mechanical shutter versus the electronic shutter, so if you missed that episode, please find it up here. But today I would like to see what is the future, and so how this electronic shutter works, and if you can really replace the mechanical shutter we are so used to. Now, as human beings, we resist change because we are so comfortable in what we are already doing. We resist change because we ignore that change is life. That change is the only constant thing. And so also photographers are an endangered species, and we had to go through many changes already in the last couple decades. And so we transitioned from SLR to DSLR, and nowadays eventually also rangefinder cameras are digital. And then once we transitioned to DSLR, mirrorless cameras started appearing in the market. And so in the very beginning they were mirrorless, but they still had a mechanical shutter, and now eventually they don't even have it anymore. Everything is digital. They don't even have a curtain. So we're talking about the Nikon Z8 and Z9, and the closest thing to a mechanical shutter that they have at the moment, it's just a shield to protect the sensor, which is like a curtain that closes up anytime you switch off the camera if you have to change lenses. But apart from that, why are we discussing it, and why electronic shutters are becoming more and more popular? So please allow me a couple minutes digression, and if you know already everything about its functioning, just skip ahead couple minutes. But as a recap for everybody, so in the very beginning we had the mirror, and we had to lift the mirror by as much as the shutter speed that you wanted to have, so the light could go through and hit the film first and then the sensor. And then since it was a moving part, eventually it could go out of sync after dozens or thousands or hundreds of pictures you've taken with a lot of use. Eventually it was going out of sync, so you had to check it in, having inspected, check the springs, so on and so forth. The whole mechanism was fallible, but it was also good. It was what we were used to when we were shooting with our SLRs. And then it was applied exactly the same thing to DSLRs. So the only difference was that instead of using a film, we were using a sensor, a digital sensor. But that sensor with DSLR was hit by light and by the image you wanted to save. It was hit like everything all together at once, because the moment you lift the mirror, light comes in and hits the sensor. While with mirrorless, well, we had to start compromising because technology is not yet so advanced. I'll get there in a moment. Why I'm saying it's not so advanced? Because nowadays with mirrorless cameras, I'm using my Leica Q2, which has both a mechanical leaf shutter and the electronic shutter. When you're using the electronic shutter, you can incur into a couple of disadvantages, namely the rolling shutter. Why do we have it? Because if you're using the electronic shutter, the readout of the sensor, it works exactly like a scanner, so line by line or two line by two lines, by 2 pixels every time, and so it takes some time to scan the sensor. And while they are doing the scanning, the object you are portraying might have moved, and so it's exactly the same thing if you're trying to have a scanned copy, but you're pulling the paper down while the scanner is working. And so this is called rolling shutter. So if you're shooting fast moving subjects, after or lower than a certain shutter speed, you will see the rolling shutter. So basically there is some distortion in your image. While another disadvantage that you might have is indoors when you are shooting with LED lighting, because you will see some bending, and this is due to the LED lights resonating at the vibration that is captured by the sensor. This is a quick fix because the moment you see the bending, you just need to change the shutter speed and eventually you'll solve it. But these are minor disadvantages. And so while we are keep using electronic shutter, technology advanced so that now at the moment we have BSI stacked sensor. And so stacked sensors are a real game changer because the readout of the sensor is way faster, so that when the Nikon Z9 was announced and released, they took away completely the mechanical shutter. They are only using the electronic shutter because thanks to the stacked sensor they're using, the readout is so fast and it's very hard to incur into rolling shutter with the Nikon Z9. And so when they released the Z8 last week, they did the exact same thing. Now, my 2 cents here. Guys, Nikon, they know their way around photography. We can agree on that. And so 18 months after they released the Z9, if there was any issue with the electronic shutter, they would have implemented a mechanical shutter in the Z8, while it was not the case, because now the top of the line in Nikon, they are both without a mechanical shutter, meaning that the electronic one is good enough for a professional use. Now please get familiar to this concept, because in a few years we might eventually have to substitute our mirrorless body again, because I see that the global shutter is coming and it will be implemented. What is a global shutter? It's an electronic shutter where the light and image will hit the shutter, everything all together, all at once, as it was with the mirror. So that will be the complete of the transitioning from mirror to mirrorless with electronic shutter only with the global shutter. So that would be damp proof, no rolling shutter at all. And nowadays it's just way too expensive, and it's also introducing some noise into photography. So this is why it is not so common yet. This is why the very good top quality cameras such as the Nikon Z8 and Z9 are still using BSI stacked sensors. So this is the top of the development in technology at the moment for what concerns sensors. And so in my humble opinion, when I'm out there, this is a Pixie rangefinder 64-bit camera. It can shoot both Bayer and monochrome DNG original files. This camera has the electronic shutter only, and I'm not missing my leaf shutter from the Leica Q2. These are two different cameras, but they are comparable because to me they are both my EDC. I take either one in the morning when I'm going out and I'm just wearing the camera all day long. So either I'm using the Leica Q2 or I'm using the Pixie, I make the same use out of it. And honestly, I'm not missing the mechanical shutter when I'm using this one. Why? Because it's a BSI stack monitor, and because, of course, I'm not shooting jets, no rockets, and so for the people passing by and for my street photography, this is more than enough. In the tutorial, I prepared a video already, so if you missed that episode, please find it up here. I was showing a few examples I've taken with my Leica Q2 with both the mechanical and the electronic shutter. And so basically I'm using this hybrid way of shooting that is mechanical down to 1/2000 of a second and electronic shutter any faster than that. I don't do it that often. I only need to go faster than 2000 of a second if I want to shoot wide open with sunlight. But these are minor examples. I don't take that many pictures that way because when I'm out there and I'm shooting street photography, I'm using ideally f8 to f11 f aperture, sometimes down to f5.6, but I will never go out and shoot wide open for my street photography because otherwise you won't see what's around the subject, you won't guess the scene and what's happening. But for other type of photography, yes, of course, I'm thinking about portraits photography. Your 85mm f1.2 from Nikon Z-mount will work absolutely well on your Nikon Z8, and so you will have the electronic shutter helping you if you want to shoot wide open, because for portraits photography you might do it quite often, right? So 85mm f1.4, that's a beautiful, beautiful lens you might enjoy as well for portrait photography and with the electronic shutter. So with that, there's not much to be said around it, because either you're having or you don't have it. And if you have both, then you need to know why you might want to use either one, mechanical or electronic shutter. But if you only have one, well, that's by definition the best possible choice. So with that, I hope you got some value out of this video. If you did, please remember to like it, share it on your social media, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the new videos to come, and I guess I will see you later. Thank you. Bye bye.